research and professor of a profession of clinical importance. It will be presented by an internationally reputed medical physicist and a scientist, Professor Salahuddin Ahmed. At present, he is a professor of radiation oncology and director of medical physics, University of
Recording
Oklahoma,
in progress.
United States of America. He is IAEA expert in radiotherapy. He has, to his credit, 190 peer-reviewed papers in international journals, 66 conference papers or book chapters, and 440 conference abstracts. He supervised many MS and PhD students. He is a member of editorial boards of a number of journals and a reviewer of many journals. He is the fellow of American College of Medical Physics, American Association of Physicists in Medicine, and American College of Radiology. He had his Masters of Physics from Dhaka University, and he started his career as a lecturer in the same department. Subsequently, he had many degrees, including PhD in Canada and USA. He was a teacher or research scientist in several universities or national laboratories in USA, Canada, and France. His initial discipline was nuclear and particle physics, and then he switched to radiation oncology and medical physics. We are proud that Professor Salahuddin Ahmed is a member of the Board of Advisors of Bangladesh Medical Physics Association. We cannot wait any longer. I would now request Professor Ahmed to deliver his talk. Professor Salahuddin Ahmed.
Thank you, Amin Bhai, for your nice introduction. And actually, it is Amin Bhai's request to give a talk like that, and because he feels that it is urgent for the medical physics community in Bangladesh.
In sharing is done. Given.
Sharing is done?
Yeah. You can share screen now.
I am having a problem of sharing for some reason.
Okay, I have given again. You can try once more. Yeah.
Now it is there?
Yeah. We can see now.
Okay, so that's great. So my talk is actually what Dr. Aminul Islam already mentioned: medical physics, education, research, and profession of clinical importance. For some reason, just hold on, I call my IT people. Daniel, can you please come quickly?
I think you can once again unshare and try to share it, because the slides are not moving, I think. That is the problem.
That is the problem, but I call my IT guy, he's going to come now. There may be some problem. Give me a minute.
For the medical physics, education, research, and profession. Accuracy.
Anil, I shared the screen, but it's not moving. Is it now okay?
Yeah, use the arrow keys.
So this key?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, it is now working. My talk will have three components: medical physics profession and medical physicists, who we are, what we do. And the third thing is a typical example, my own university, University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center, and in particular, the Department of Radiation Oncology and Physics. Of course, my talk will contain the things that are in the United States of America, where I work. What is a medical physicist? A medical physicist is a trained professional, I repeat, who specializes in the application of the concepts and methods of physics, I repeat, physics, to the diagnosis and therapeutic treatment of human disease, especially cancer. Medical physicist is a part of the medical team. So I divide the teams into two. One is the therapy team. Therapy team is responsible for treatment. And the second is imaging team, who are responsible for diagnosis. Now, in the therapy team, there are many different types of professionals involved. Physician, of course, the radiation oncologists, the surgeon, like for example, brain surgeon, breast surgeon, or different types of surgeons who are involved. The basic degrees they have is actually MD. In the United States, in Bangladesh, we call them MBBS or others. Medical physicists who took a very important part. They are trained as a PhD medical physicist or a master's level medical physicist. And when they are certified by the American Board of Radiology, we call them DABR. Of course, in order to get certification, you have to pass 3 parts of examination organized by the American Board of Radiology. Part 1, that actually tests your basic understanding of physics in medicine. And the part 2 is more towards the experimental or practical training part. And part 3 is the oral exam. In particular, the oral exam is quite difficult. Third category of professionals who are involved in the United States in this practice are called medical dosimetrists. Usually, in most of the cases, they are BSc level. They pass the BSc in medical dosimetry or some other medical disciplines. They are also certified, and we call them CMD, Clinical Medical Dosimetrists. Fourth category is the physics assistant. Physics assistant are mainly physicists or equivalent training who have BSc degrees. Like, for example, BSc in physics or medical physics or engineering. They can work under the supervision of a medical physicist. And the fifth category are radiation therapists. They are also certified. We call them RTT. Now the question is, all those people who can practice independently must be certified, or else they have to work under the supervision of certified professionals. The second category is the imaging team. They are responsible for diagnosis. Physicians, of course, radiologists, cardiologists, and of similar type of medical professionals. Usually they have the MD degrees. Medical physicists, again, they have MS or PhD and also certified by by the American Board of Radiology, and we call them diplomat of the American Board of Radiology. Physics assistant, as I mentioned before, similar type, and the radiological technologists, they are also certified. So in the US, you need to have certification before you can practice independently. Medical physics disciplines usually has 4 subfields. Therapeutic radiological physics, where I belong, diagnostic imaging physics, medical nuclear physics, and also, in some cases, medical health physics. Therapeutic radiological physics, the therapeutic application of X-ray, they deal with that. Gamma ray, neutron, electron, and charged particle beams like proton, carbonion, and radiation from sealed nuclear, radionuclear sources. That covers the overall the responsibility of the therapeutic medical physics to deal with all these, which I'm going to explain much in detail later. The equipment associated with their production, like for example, how you produce the X-rays, how you produce the gamma rays, neutron, how you produce proton. All these measurements and clinical quality evaluation are the responsibilities of medical physicists. Thus, these things cannot be done by physicians. So physicians need help from the physicist. And that is why this discipline is actually a tag team discipline, where one side is the physicians, other side is the physicists. The quality of the images resulting from their production and the clinical use, that also handles by physicists. Medical health physics associated with these subfields, of course, that is also very important because we have to measure the radiation level and all these type of things with the assistance of the health physicists. Now, can medical physicists be also a health physicist? Yes, absolutely. Of course, this is a picture I wanted to show. Of the right-hand side is the cell killing by ionizing radiation, which is the biological aspects of cell killing, which we all know. The left-hand side, as you can see, typical variant linear accelerator. Okay, so essentially, this is the gantry part where, and this is the couch. The patient lies here, as you know, and the beam of X-rays or electron come this way, and we treat our patient. So the physicist has to know how this accelerator really works. And physicists need to know, in case if there is any problem, that the beam is not coming or beam is not the appropriate energy based, then he has to find out the problem, communicate with the variant engineers, try to fix it before it is delivered to our patients. A big responsibility. Diagnostic radiological physics, the diagnostic application of X-rays, gamma rays from the sealed sources, ultrasonic radiation, radio frequency radiation, magnetic fields, like MRI. All these things are part of the diagnostic radiation physicist's responsibility. The equipment associated with their production, use, measurement, and quality evaluation. That is also the diagnostic medical physicists do. The quality of images resulting from their production and use. Again, we need some help from the medical health physicists associated with this subfield. As we all know, on November 8, 1895, and that is the beginning of this. Röntgen accidentally discovered an image cast from his cathode ray generator. As you all know how the X-rays are produced from this, the beam hits here in the anode and then produces the X-rays. This is a very fundamental knowledge of how X-rays are produced. Third category is the medical nuclear physics, the therapeutic and diagnostic applications of radionuclides in unsealed sources. The equipment associated with their production, use, measurement, and quality evaluation. The quality of images resulting from their production and use. Of course, again, medical health physics is associated with this subfield. This is particularly the nuclear medicinal physics, which is part of our overall medical physics. For example, the gamma camera scan, liver metastasis from prostate carcinoma, administration of technetium-99 M, and accumulates in areas of increased blood flow. Medical health physics, the safe use of X-ray, gamma ray, neutron, electron, and other charged particle beams, proton, carbon ion, or radionuclides in medicine for both purposes, diagnostic as well as therapeutic. The instrumentation required to perform appropriate radiation surveys. The medical physicist often serves as radiation safety officer. For example, emergency management of radiation casualties. Now I'm going to go into different gear. General areas of responsibility of the medical physicist. Clinical, very important. Research, education, regulatory compliance, and finally, administrative professional service, which is practically voluntary service. The fifth category is only for chief physicist or the director of physics or someone who is interested to participate voluntarily to all organizational activities. That is not really for common medical physicists. Clinical. It consists of daily clinical support, equipment acquisitions, what type of equipment we need to buy in order to do some types of treatment or diagnosis. Physicists take responsibility on that. Site planning, very important. One of the most important things of site planning. Like for example, we wanted to treat such kind of, say for instance, the proton therapy, for example. Who is going to decide on the site? Who is going to know what is the energy of the proton beam to be used? How they will make the shielding part, in particular the neutron shielding. Who will do the calculation? It's a huge work. Physicists are responsible for the site planning. Of course, radiation oncologists or the hospital administrators, they will be involved. But the critical job is done by physicists. We all have to think about it very clearly. Quality assurance. Two categories of quality assurance. Machine quality assurance and patient quality assurance. Machine quality assurance is very important. For example, your physician prescribed, say, 200 centigrade with 6x photon. How would you know that the machine is giving 6x? How do you know that the 200 centigrade that the physicians prescribe, you are doing it correctly? Who's going to check it? This is physicists, not the physicians. They only prescribe. So, big importance for the machine calibration. We physicists make sure that the energy of the beam is absolutely correct. We physicists would have to make sure those the physicians prescribe, we are giving it. Question: if the energy is off by some percentage, for example, then the patient is not getting the dose in the right position in the tube. It goes to some other places. Very crucial. Then the quality assurance on the patient. We have to see whether the patient is getting the dose that the physicians prescribe. That type of quality assurance is also important. Dose calculations. Does the physicians do the dose calculations? Not at all. They know that if a patient gets 200 centigrade for 35 fractions, for example, in a prostate cancer, the patient will be better or will be cured or whatever. But who will do the dose calculations? This is part of the physicist's responsibility. And we have to be very careful about that. Liaison between other medical professions, manufacturers, and regulatory agencies. For example, Nuclear Regulatory Commission in the United States. Then the second component is the research to develop new therapeutic or diagnostic procedures for clinical use. It is also physicists' responsibility to develop techniques, how to treat patients better. Does the physicians know about it? Most of the cases, not at all. So you have a big responsibility there. Implementation and or integration of new equipment into clinical use. All these new technologies, new things that are coming up, you are the physicist responsible to implement and to integrate into your clinical use. Investigation or evaluation of therapeutic or diagnostic outcomes and performance. And of course, if you have time doing and want to do more, you can do basic scientific and applied research as well. Third component, educational functions, the teaching component, for example. In medical physics these days, only few institutions in the United States provide BS and BSc degrees in medical physics. Only very few. You can count in your fingers. Or physics or allied field with prerequisites of sufficient physics, mathematics, etc. are required for graduate admission. Those degrees are not usually medical physicists with BSc degree. They can be physics degrees or engineering or health science degrees. Only very few institutions offer BSc degrees in medical physics. In this context, I'm going to discuss about CAMPEP. CAMPEP is Commission on Accreditation of Medical Physics Educational Programs Incorporated. That is the accreditation agency in the United States. Now, graduate programs offer MS, PhD, and another degree called Doctorate in Medical Physics. Those are very important because you need to have a graduate degree before you go further. So essentially, in the United States, there are 59 CAMPEP-approved programs to offer MS, PhD, DMP, or all of them, or out of 3 degrees. Of course, some major universities, other than our university, offer these graduate degrees, like for example, Brown University, Columbia University, Duke University, UCLA, Chicago, University of Pennsylvania, University of Wisconsin, the well-known universities in the US who offers PhD, MS, or MS and PhD degrees, the graduate degrees. In Canada, for example, UBC, University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada, or McGill University in Montreal, the 2 are major universities in Canada. They offer such degrees as well. Now, the 59 graduate programs that I mentioned, they are in USA as well as in Canada. There are a few other universities who are not CAMPEP approved, but I'm not mentioning those in my talk. There are certificate programs, also CAMPEP approved. These programs is actually those who are in different fields. Let's assume that PhD in engineering or PhD in physics, and they wanted to become medical physicists. There is a short program called certificate program. Those program is sometime 1 year, sometimes 6 months. They can also be certified eventually as practicing medical physicists. The third category is residency programs. It has to be the CAMPEP approved also. And there are 108 institutions they offer residency in therapeutic medical physics. And 34 institutions offer diagnostic imaging physics. In total, in Canada and the US. Now, the graduate programs and the residency programs are essential to give you certification to practice medical physics independently. American Board of Radiology, ABR, certification is required to practice medical physics independently. Otherwise, you can practice in some institution under the guidance of certified physicists. One must be a CAMPEP graduate or a CAMPEP resident and must finish residency and pass ABR Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 examinations before being certified. It's not easy. These professional things is quite a bit of involvement by a physicist. You have to pass from a CAMPEP graduate program and a CAMPEP residency, and must finish pass ABR Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 before being certified. So, but question is, do you need to have both CAMPEP graduate, passing from the CAMPEP graduate program and CAMPEP residency program? Not necessarily. One, that means if you pass the CAMPEP graduate program, then you can have a residency from a non-CAMPEP program. If you pass graduate program from a non-CAMPEP graduate program, then you must pass residency from a CAMPEP residency. One. Okay? And you pass Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 before being certified. Part 1 is the examination you can do anytime. That means if you are a graduate student in the first year, you can appear in the Part 1. You have to pass Part 1 before you complete your graduate programs. Part 2 and Part 3, you need the residency completion. You cannot appear in Part 2 and Part 3 without completing your residency. So there are a lot of restrictions in this process. this way, the medical physicists become a well-trained, well-qualified professional to serve the profession of clinical importance. I highlight these things. This way, a medical physicist become a well-trained, well-qualified professional to serve the profession of clinical importance. And we have to inform these things to all our radiation oncologists as well as those people who takes the leadership role in governing rules and regulations in a country, our country like Bangladesh. Regulatory compliance, administrative and professional service, maintain compliance with the regulatory commission. For example, NRC, National Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, that is the organization in Oklahoma. So we, the physicists, as well as the hospital administrator, have to deal with all these regulatory commissions in order to continue our practice and get approval. Chief of Physics also has administrative responsibility. Like for example, in Oklahoma, this is my responsibility to have both clinically and academically. Some physicists have interests in professional service. For example, involvement in American Board of Radiology, ASTRO, American Society for Therapeutic Radiation Oncology, AAPM, American Association of Physicists in Medicine, and also, to extend further, like BMPA, Bangladesh Medical Physics Association, where I'm involved, quite honestly. So all these are voluntary involvement. Now, I wanted to show you some examples. Therapeutic radiological physics as introduction. For example, these are high energy X-rays and electron accelerators. I'm sure in Bangladesh there are facilities now, and Bangladeshi medical physicists know about all these type of clinical tools. Modern radiation therapy using high energy X-rays. This is actually a variant accelerator. So essentially you can know all this type of things, how the structures are being done. And then this is the carousel part, filtering part, and then how the beam is produced and your patient lies. So essentially as a physicist, though the variant engineers are available, but you should know at least the workable knowledge regarding how the variant accelerator or the Siemens accelerator or electron, how they are constructed. And this is the multi-leaf collimators typical picture. Gamma knife radiosurgery. Of course, I wanted to say that this is an old picture. This is called 4C. But currently, the gamma knife has perfection and icon. Perfection is you cannot see the visible collimators. All the collimators are inside. And the icon is you have a cone beam CT type of system on the top of perfection. Okay. For example, you can see how the brain tumor is treated, and this is a 4 millimeter collimator system used in the 4C gamma knife systems, and how the gamma knives, all the beams are oriented to an isocenter here. In our institution, we used to have 4C, then we changed it to the perfection, and currently for the last 1.5 years, we are treating our patients with ICON, which is a perfection system. On the top of that, there are cone beam CT. Tachytherapy, for example, as you can see, the HDR part, this is an HDR pig. So how the seats are arranged in this type of systems. Here, for example, breast tumor with seats. external beam radiation therapy, a typical example about how a 3D conformal technique for treating a prostate cancer. Just how, for example, the tumor is, and if you wanted to cover the tumor with 70 gray or 76 gray or whatever, it all depends upon how you orient the techniques. In this case, it could be a 4-field technique. Of course, these days we do IMRT and we do VMAT, volumetric modulated arc therapy, which improves the treatment scenario. Therapy responsibilities in summary: equipment and facility specification and acquisition. Shielding calculations, very important for physicists. Equipment commissioning, another great responsibility. If you don't commission, the physicians cannot use those machines for patient treatment. You are responsible. Calibration of radiation sources. Planning of patient procedures, step by step. Calculation of patient dose, very important. If you cannot do a correct dose estimation or dose calculation, we may treat wrong to our patients, and the patients are not getting the dose that they should get. Management of special procedures like SRS, stereotactic radiosurgery. Calibration and quality assurance, very important for physicists. Development of new devices and techniques. Radiation safety and regulatory compliance. These are the overall clinical and administrative or management type of responsibilities for physicists. And we should let our physicians colleagues know about all these type of things. The detail of what medical physicists do, not only to the radiation oncologist, but to the hospital administrator and people above them. Diagnostic part. Diagnostic radiological physics includes CT, MRI, PET-CT, nuclear medicine, X-ray unit, as for example. I'm not going to explain these things any further. CT unit, MRI unit, now I'm going to do very short about the department that I lead here, Oklahoma University Health Sciences Center, Radiation Oncology. Our mission is to provide cutting-edge oncology care within a milieu of commitment to teaching and research. First of all, I'm going to go for the educational programs. Radiation Oncology Residency and Therapy Physics Residency. So length of the program, for the Radiation Oncology Residency, currently in program 6, and these programs are called 4 years. Why I say ACGME accredited? The Radiation Oncology Residency are not CAMPEP accredited. They are ACGME, Accreditation of Graduate Medical Education. In our department, we have 6 radiation oncology residents. Residency program in therapy physics. The length of the program, 2 years. They are CAMPEP accredited. Currently in my program, we have 2 medical PhD level medical physics residents. Graduate programs in medical physics, CAMPEP accredited, operated jointly by radiology and radiation oncology departments. So in our department or university, we have 5 MS students therapy. 1 PhD students currently therapy, 2 MS students diagnostic nuclear medicine and MRI, 2 PhD students diagnostic nuclear medicine and MRI. And we are hoping to develop a postdoctoral program in proton therapy physics. Our program has both ChemPep approved for MS and ChemPep approved for PhD and ChemPep approved for diagnostic residency physics and ChemPep approved also for therapy residency physics. Graduate medical physics programs, Master of Science, 3 years period. PhD, 4 years beyond masters. And the subspecialty areas are radiation therapy, medical ultrasonography, diagnostic radiology, nuclear medicine, and radiation biology. Graduate medical physics programs, the compulsory courses are follows: radiation detection and measurement, radiation biology and chemistry, production and absorption of ionizing radiation, that is my class, I teach that class, physics of radiation therapy, nuclear medicine, and diagnostic physics. Additional courses are anatomy, decision theory, image processing, MRI, radiation oncology, advanced nuclear medicine, advanced diagnostic radiology, subatomic nuclear and particle physics. That course also I taught, and that is only for the PhD students. Special topics, seminar, thesis, and dissertation. So you see that how extensive the course curriculums are in order to graduate the master's degree holders and the PhD degree holders so that they can be a trained professional and practicing medical physics. Duration of the program is 24 months, the therapy physics residency. Total rotations are 8, each of 3 months. Clinical rotation, 7. That means 7 times 3 is 21 months. Research is 1 rotation, 1 times 3, 3 months. Didactic training, yes. Goal is to train individuals to sit for American Board of Radiology exam to get board certification. That is our goal. We trained our people so that they appear in the exam, they get the certification and practice independently. Physics research in radiation oncology. There are several topics that my students, my resident, and my junior colleagues work with me to perform this type of research topics. Radiobiological modeling, mathematics of radiobiology, imaging radiation therapy, patient dosimetry with optically stimulated luminescence. This is a collaboration between my department and Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. This is of Oklahoma State University's physics department, and we collaborate. Site and technique dependent treatment planning, Monte Carlo techniques in radiation therapy, quality assurance and treatment delivery, and finally, proton and carbon ion beam therapy. Proton therapy, we have the proton machine in our institution, and we are operating for the last 2.5 years, treating patients. Carbon ion therapy, the research we do is practically theoretical research, Monte Carlo based. That concludes my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Salahuddin Ahmed, for excellent presentation, and we have discussed very important issues in case of medical physics, education, research, and professional clinical importance. I think if anybody would like to know something, then anybody can ask to Professor Salahuddin Ahmed. If anybody have any question, please go.
Thank you, Professor Salahuddin, for the excellent overview about the education, because we are the health professional, very important. It's not just academic, as well as the residency program. Now, just I would like to know, CAMPEP has a separate residency program for radiotherapy, medical physics, and radiology medical physics. Am I correct?
CAMPEP has the therapeutic radiologic physics and imaging physics, which is the diagnostic physics. Yes.
Okay. If one does a therapeutic medical physics for 2 years, then another 2 years he has to go for the radiology residency, or the 1 year is sufficient?
If you wanted to certify both as a therapeutic medical physicist and diagnostic imaging physicist, you have to go for 2 years of therapeutic residency training and 2 years of diagnostic imaging training.
And are there any mandatory requirement posting of medical physicists in radiology and interventional procedure?
Those are actually the radiology residents. They deal with all those interventional procedures. But for the medical physicists, of course, the diagnostic imaging residents, they go through some sort of training about those, not the therapeutic medical physicists.
So, but my question is this: for example, in radiotherapy, you need medical physicists. Okay?
Yes. Yes.
Is it a mandatory requirement even in radiology and interventional radiology that the medical physicist has to be there, or services of the medical physicist is must, as per the radiation safety science?
Yeah, there are the diagnostic medical physicists who are trained in the diagnostic domain. They are responsible, but the therapeutic medical physics are not responsible to do those type of procedures.
So the question is this: because we see in Asian countries, almost about 95 to 99 or even 100% of the medical physicists are working in only radiotherapy, because there is no mandatory requirement to have a medical physicist in radiology. But in US, because European Union suggests that at least you have to have, or European Union and even BSS makes it mandatory that you should have a medical physics services or radiation protection expert services. Is it in USA mandate?
Yes, yes. Without the certification, the diagnostic medical physicist cannot do the job independently.
No, my question is again,
it's a mandatory training.
No, not training I'm asking. See, for example, radiotherapy practice, if a department is there, you need to have certain number of medical physicists, right?
Yes.
The radiology, to take care of the radiation protection, evacuation, does a law mandate that you should appoint a diagnostic radiology medical physicist?
Yes. My knowledge, yes.
And are there these laws? Because US a federal system, every state has a different laws regarding the medical physics residency, something, or it's a uniform across the country?
As long as it belongs to the CAMPEP accreditation, this requirement is the minimum of 2 years of residency. Some institutions in the country, they have 3 years of residency, but most of the institutions in the country have 2 years of residency.
And CAMPEP does prescribe any model syllabus or curriculum that minimum has to be followed?
They have a criteria, but every institution writes their self-study. For example, in my institution, I made this is about 120, 130 pages of writing regarding all these rotations, how the rotations will be done, what type of practical knowledge they will gain. All these type of things every institutions do on their own. But there is a CAMPEP people, CAMPEP board, they evaluate that, and on that basis they revise, they ask revision and all the other stuff. But the CAMPEP does not have any formula that you have to follow that.
So every university has its
Own way of doing this structure.
Can I just put some more questions?
Sure.
Okay, then we have a certification, registration. Is all the medical physicists has to be registered as a health professional, and is there any license kind of thing for medical practitioners, nursing or pharmacists we have? Is it for the clinical medical physicists also?
Yes, the clinical medical physicist, first of all, the ABR certification is the minimum necessary requirement to practice medical physics independently. But on the top of that, some of the states, like Texas, like New York, or Florida, some of the states, they need additional license. The remaining 49 states, they don't need any additional license. When I was working in Texas, for example, I had a license also to practice in Texas. But when I am in Oklahoma, we don't need any additional license. The ABR certification satisfies all the requirements.
Then this syllabus also, because you said that it depends upon the university, molecular imaging, diagnostic, radiomics, AI. All now the universities must be adding this new requirement of the curriculum.
Right.
And then just last question, just what I was seeing, you have Prof and research in carbon. But US, I think yet no carbon therapy center in US, to my best opinion.
Okay, let me answer this question because many people have misunderstanding about that. The first heavy ion therapy was in the United States. Those are actually Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory in California. They used to use carbon ion, the helium ion, neon ion to treat patients. But there are some physics reason or a clinical reason for which US or also monetary reason for which US decided not to continue carbon ion or heavy ion therapy. At that time, with the help of the US scientists, Japan and Germany developed their carbon ion therapy. And practically they are now leading, and now Switzerland and some of the countries like China is trying to do the carbon ion therapy. Now, does that mean that US will never do carbon ion therapy? No. US are now planning to do carbon ion therapy, and most likely one of the institutions in Florida is taking the major role in initiating the carbon ion therapy. But you know, for carbon ion therapy, the minimum cost of the construction facility and operation is about $300 million. It's not a easy matter. But we are expecting that in year 2027, US will also have carbon ion facility.
The last is medical physics 3. There is a consultation by the medical physicists regarding the techniques they want, the other things. How much is being practiced in US?
About what? Can you repeat the question?
Consultation by medical physicists. MP3, that medical physics 3, what WPM had brought out and launched in 2017, that medical physicist can give a consultation to the patient regarding the technologies and technological things.
That type of things, I'm not sure, because I have, in our institutions, the medical physicists never participate in consultation with the patients.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kurun, for a good query. I have also the same type of query because in our country there are 22 radiotherapy centers only, around 60 to 70 medical physicists, clinical medical physicists are working here. But in case of diagnostic section, we have around 4,000 facilities in our country. And among the 4,000 facilities, 1,000 facilities are equipped with CT, fluoroscopy, many types of very complicated X-ray machine. So medical physicists is very important, but all the centers are operated by just only radiation technologies. So this is a big problem in our country. I think everywhere is nearly the same.
Shakil, that is true, because you see, in the United States, as I mentioned before, we have 108 therapy residency programs. On the other hand, only 34 diagnostic imaging residency program. 10 years ago, do you know that, you will be surprised to know, 10 years ago there were about 40 or 50 therapy residency program, and there were only 2 diagnostic residency programs. Now people are having more diagnostic residency program. The simple reason is that in therapy, we also use now imaging techniques very much. So essentially, sometimes we need the consultation of the diagnostic imaging physicist to help in our program as well. So gradually it will change. And another thing is that, of course, the therapy has more job everywhere in the world than the diagnostic physicist, and that is why people wants to get the training in therapy.
Just I can add with Ahmed what he has talked about. There are few countries in even Asia, Indonesia, the Malaysia, and Thailand. Indonesia has brought a law that the diagnostic radiology level 3, that means fluoroscopy and CT, they must have a medical physicist. So 66% of the medical physicists are working in Indonesia in radiology, and just 30% in radiotherapy. More jobs in radiology because
And the trend, I agree with you, Arun. The trend is actually in that way, because you see that in therapy now we use imaging very much. So essentially it is the necessity that will make it work that way. So for example, in my therapy group, we also collaborate with our diagnostic colleagues in the imaging, the utilization of imaging in therapy, for example.
Thank you, Salahuddin, Professor Salahuddin, for your very informative, especially for us, it is very informative presentation. I just, very basic question I want to do. I want ask you about that CAMPEP and ABN. These are 2 separate entities.
Yes, they are independent.
They are independent and doing voluntary work.
Right. No, CAMPEP is, of course, the ABR, all of us are working. Like, for example, me, I'm an ABR examiner, for example. And I'm also an ABR question setter.
Yeah.
We are not getting any pay. We are not paid. It is voluntary work. It is the interest.
They are working voluntary.
Right. But the CAMPEP is structure is somewhat little different. Like the CAMPEP, the reviewer, for example, they don't get the money as a salary or anything, but they get lots of allowances, like travel allowance or like some sort of support they get it.
Yeah.
The ABR is completely
CAMPEP or the ABR are registered by the government? Is it necessary that they have to be?
No, the government doesn't have any influence on that. No. It is an incorporation.
What are AAPM?
AAPM stands for American Association of Physicists in Medicine.
Yeah.
So there are members. There are members from all over the world.
Government. No,
they are not. None of these are government
body, isn't it?
Independent. They are not a government body. Like, for example, AAPM, it is actually there are several categories of membership in AAPN. Like normally it is the physicists, like
Yeah.
physics student, physics resident, and members are from all over the world. There are many members from India, even from Bangladesh. There are some members in
Yeah,
the AAPN.
Yeah.
So it is all over the world.
Yeah, we are in a small association like Bangladesh Medical Physics Association.
Right.
So
right.
everybody, I mean, few of them have their conception that we should have to be registered with the government. So that's why I'm just that's why I asked you this.
If the organization independently can run all these type of things and activities, there is no need to be part of the government. But of course, in Bangladesh, the politics is somewhat different. So I cannot say what should be done in Bangladesh.
That's our issue, of course. But we also accept or also follow the better way how to do this, our things, our way, in better way, by getting advice like you, or from Australia, from UK, or India, maybe India also. Dr. Arun Chawla is very happy.
I told Dr. Aminul Islam that anything that needs in Bangladesh, and if I have time, I will contribute that. I will do that because Bangladesh is my country. I came from that country. Though I'm now in the US, whatever I can do. And Camila, I told you also these things when I was visiting in 2017. You remember that, and you took me to some of those people who were at that time thinking about initiating something like that.
Thank you, Professor Ahmed. One participant, Nur Muhammad Rasel, lecturer of Kumilla University, he asked one question. That is, what is the practical aspect of carbon nanotube-based cold X-ray technology in diagnostic imaging in medical physics? Can you have give some idea about that one?
Okay, I think on this spot I should not answer this question because this is not in my field. But if he wants, you can provide him my email address, and I will find out the answer, and I will let him know.
Okay, thank you. I would like to discuss about the whole thing, today's webinar program. Professor Aminul Islam, President of Bangladesh Medical Physics Association, will discuss and close this today's webinar program.
Doesn't anybody have any other question? Like anybody wants to ask any other question to Salahuddin Ahmed?
Just one, what could I understand, AAPM is a professional body organization. In some Asian countries, with the government as an NGO, we have to register. That may be the requirement. CAMPEB is an accreditation body, and the ABR is a medical physics and radiology certifying body, if what I understood at that. And regarding the cold cathode X-ray technology, there was a IOMP webinar, and the recording is available on the IOMP website. The efficiency of the X-rays in the cold cathode is much higher and much the technology is coming up. So there is a webinar taken place, and that recording is available on the IOMP website.
Oh, that's great. So essentially, our colleague from the Kumilla University got this information from Arun. So essentially, he can find out those information. Thank you, Arun.
Okay, it was a wonderful talk, and Professor Salahuddin Ahmed, these are the things exactly what you wanted. And as a matter of fact, after listening to this talk, we are tempted to have another talk tempted to have another talk from you, and that can be like probably many of our members will also want that. More like it was some kind of concise things that you say, but in details we want to know. In details we want to know uh, about the responsibility and activity of the medical physicists dedicated to the radiation therapy world. And we're much interested to know that. Like you just in bullets, you said that these are the responsibilities, but we are much eager to know the details of uh, that part. I mean, the medical physicists who are dedicated to radiation therapy, I mean, the responsibilities of those medical physicists.
Yeah, Dr. Aminul Islam, of course, you can. Like, for example, the medical physicists who are responsible in, do you have gamma knife there in Bangladesh? Shakil, do you have gamma knife?
No, we don't.
Till now, we don't have gamma knife, but one gamma knife could be that is Evercare Hospital. They are going to purchase one gamma knife.
Okay, so let me think about it. Let's assume that one of the institutions in Bangladesh is buying, say, a true beam, or then we may have already a true beam. Now, the physicist, therapeutic physicist who is involved in the true beam sectors, what are the steps of necessary steps of doing work in that? Like, for example, acceptance. How the acceptance is done, how the commissioning is done, how the quality assurance is designed, what type of measurements they do. If you wanted to specifically want to know any particular scenario, of course I can give the directions.
Dr. Salahuddin Ahmed, I didn't mean that. Like with this Linac machine, for example, this is what we used in Bangladesh. I wanted to I wanted kind of elaborate talk about the responsibilities and functions and the activities of therapeutic medical physicists engaged in radiation therapy. You see what I mean?
We can do that.
Yeah, like it is already there, but why I'm saying that, because people don't understand, even the radiation oncologists, they do not understand what are the activities of the medical physicists. Why are they necessary? Like anybody, as you said, that not only the radiation oncologists, but also the hierarchy, the administrators and others, they got to know about the essentiality of the medical physicist, the various things that the medical physicist do, the medical physicist does. For example, many times they say that can be done by technicians, and many times it says it's done by radiation oncologists. Like there are overlaps, I know, but we want to it would be very nice if in it there's the details of what are the responsibilities, what are the functions, and what are the works the medical physicists do. And definitely some of it overlaps with the activities of radiation oncologists, and some are overlapping with technicians. But medical physicists are essential for that.
I mean, unfortunately, it is the culture. It is the culture that is available in our country. For example, the radiation oncologists, their knowledge of the medical physics responsibilities and the job they perform probably is not very clear. And the leaders of the Bangladesh health services, the administrators, they may probably are not aware. So the first and most important thing that we have to do is to make awareness to those people who takes the decision regarding the beautiful responsibility that the medical physicists are doing. In most of the cases, I'm sure our medical physicists in Bangladesh are working their best but not getting the appropriate recognition. So the recognition is actually a political thing. You have to make the understand, and we have to make the radiation oncologists understand that without the professional work of our medical physicists, their job will not be done. You have to, somebody has to clearly tell them. Okay,
that's why we requested for this webinar. Like it's about the awareness about medical physics, and in fact, the theme of our next conference is that awareness of medical physics. You know, so
which is very important.
Yeah. Professor Arun, we're much happy and we're much grateful to you that you have come here. Like it has graced our seminar, and we are very happy to have you here. And you have made this webinar quite lively and interesting and more useful. And by the way, I want to tell you, Professor Arun, we want to have you. We want to invite you to our conference that is going to be held in March 10. And we'll be very happy to come here. We will communicate with you, and we'll be very happy to get you in our conference. Is that all right?
Yeah. Sir, just
Okay,
I want to add, regarding the population, IDMP, the International Day of Medical Physics, which is doing every year 7, that is what we are showcasing, what is the contribution of. Every year theme changes. And this year, actually, it is the public awareness, because not only our some colleagues in healthcare do not know what proper medical physics, same way the public do not. So the IDMP platform should use, and the celebration should happen every nook and corner, so that medical physicists comes to fore.
Okay, Professor Salahuddin Ahmed, it was a wonderful talk, and you delivered exactly what you wanted. And as everybody, as Professor Roland is saying, we are also saying that people don't know about the medical physics, medical physicists. They don't know about it. They don't know the term even, medical physics. What is it? I mean, but like you will bear me out, Professor Salahuddin Ahmed, that in the United States of America and in other developed countries, it is said that when patients go to a hospital, they just inquire if there are proper good medical physicists. Only not that there are radiation oncologists or doctors or machines. They inquire about medical physicists, if there are proper medical physicists. And it is advised, in fact, from it is advised there probably that you got to check before going to a hospital if there are proper medical physicists. And here in Bangladesh, people don't have any idea about that, and that idea is broadly absent in the government arena. In government hospitals, there are no medical physicists, and that's why actually there is no radiation therapy treatment in the government medical colleges in Bangladesh. That's a very. But we are also responsible. We couldn't make aware or make people in the helm of affairs about we couldn't place the case properly. We couldn't make them understand, or we couldn't communicate with them. We just failed. It is our failure. So, like that's why we are now engaging more to have dialogue with. We have to do something more about the awareness about the medical physics, and we hope we will do it.
I mean, by Bangladesh.
Thank you very much for your wonderful talk.
Yeah, Bangladesh. I just wanted to mention.
Everybody, all the participants, I thank you, all of you. We are very happy that you have participated, you have attended, and we hope that you will present in our next seminars as well. Dr. Salahuddin, you want to say?
One more thing. Of course, the Bangladesh Medical Physics Association can do a lot more in these perspectives. as the American Association of Physicists in Medicine did 40, 50 years ago. So it is actually to raise the awareness. BMPA should take a big role in that. And if you need me for anything, I will be available.
Thank you very much. So thank you all. Good night. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.